I want you to imagine a time before instant gratification, like a time before you could just pull a supercomputer out of your pocket, tap a piece of glass, and have an object shipped to your front door before you even wake up the next day.
Right, before next day delivery was just the default setting for life.
Exactly. I want you to picture an era that our source material really beautifully describes as being stitched together with scarcity and sincerity.
Hmm. Scarcity and sincerity, that's a great phrase.
It really is. It's an era where a child's wish wasn't fulfilled with a casual click, but had to be, in the words of the text, gently dreamt upon. So, welcome to the deep dive. We are so thrilled you're taking this time with us to explore something incredibly special today.
Yeah, it's a striking contrast to the rhythm of our modern lives. I mean, the very concept of a wish having to marinate, like having to be held and carried around and dreamt upon over time rather than just instantly solved. It changes the entire nature of longing.
And that tension between instant solutions and quiet longing is basically the foundation of our mission today. We are exploring a short, just deeply moving story provided to us via two identical text excerpts.
Yeah.
It's titled The Man Who Listened to the Unsaid, Chapter 2, The Kaleidescope of Wonder.
And, this isn't just a story about a homemade toy.
Right.
It's really an exploration of quiet observation. It's about the literal alchemy of turning discarded scraps into a child's dream.
Totally. It highlights a kind of deep attention that feels, I don't know, almost completely lost in our current culture. Okay, let's unpack this.
So what's fascinating here is the environment where this story begins. It's critical because it establishes this baseline reality that our protagonist eventually just breaks completely out of.
Yeah.
The author places us squarely in the middle of a mundane office.
And the text gives us these incredibly vivid sensory details of the daily grind. Like you can almost hear it.
Oh, for sure.
Files are rustling, ceiling fans are humming overhead, and there's this constant stream of technical talk drifting, as the author writes, like clouds above earthbound workers.
Earthbound workers, I mean, that phrase carries a lot of psychological weight.
Yeah, what do you make of that?
Well, when you are earthbound, your gaze is pointed downward, right? You are focused on efficiency, metrics, just getting through the day.
Yeah.
The adults in this room are totally tethered to the reality of their tasks.
Right. They aren't looking for magic. They're just trying to process the paperwork.
Exactly, which makes the disruption in the room so noticeable. Right in the middle of this humming, very adult environment, the manager's 10-year-old niece is present.
Right.
And she voices this small, almost fragile longing. She asks her uncle if he can get her a photo telescope.
A photo telescope, which is, her own way of describing a kaleidoscope.
Yeah. The text calls it a portal to dancing geometry and color.
But the manager, her uncle, reacts the way 99% of adults probably would in that exact situation.
Yeah, he brushes it off.
He does. He smiles, says something vague, and essentially just dismisses it. I mean, he's polite, but he clearly has no idea how to make that happen. He's an earthbound worker.
And, we shouldn't necessarily judge the manager too harshly for that.
No, fair enough.
It's a symptom of the environment. When you're processing the heavy cognitive load of adult responsibilities, a child's imaginative request often just bounces off of you.
I was actually thinking about this dynamic, and it feels exactly like radio static.
Oh, radio static. I like that.
Yeah, you have this humming technical office environment, and all the adults are tuned into this very dense earthbound frequency. The little girl's wish is broadcasting on a completely different wavelength, and to the manager, it just sounds like static. He hears the syllables, but he doesn't hear the wish.
Doesn't hear the intent.
Right. But then the text introduces our protagonist, who is referred to simply as your father. He's sitting in that very same room. And the text describes him as being quiet as the eye of a storm.
That's a very deliberate metaphor, too, because the eye of a storm isn't a place of passive emptiness.
Right.
It's a place of intense, localized calm, but it's surrounded by chaos. He is physically present in the same mundane space as the manager, but his attention is operating on a fundamentally different axis.
He manages to tune his internal dial past all that office static, right onto the specific, rare frequency of this little girl's longing.
Yes.
He doesn't dismiss her, but here is the thing that really stands out to me. He also doesn't say a single word.
No, he doesn't.
He could have easily leaned over and said, hey, just so you know, the word for that is a kaleidoscope. Why the silence? What is the psychological difference between correcting her vocabulary and doing what he did?
Well, it really comes down to a line in the text that explicitly tells us he listened not only with his ears, but with his spirit.
With his spirit.
Yeah. If he just corrects her vocabulary, he's listening solely with his ears. He's applying that technical office worker logic to a child's sense of wonder.
Right. He's dragging her down.
Yeah. Exactly. Correcting her would be an act of pulling her down into that earthbound reality, teaching her the proper catalog term for her imagination.
Oh, wow.
But listening with the spirit requires stepping entirely out of that static. It means acknowledging the dazzling nature of what she actually wants to experience, not just critiquing the words she's using to describe it. By staying silent, he protects the space around the wish.
He doesn't puncture the balloon with adult logic.
Precisely. He recognizes that she's asking for an experience of wonder, and you just cannot deliver wonder with a vocabulary lesson.
That is so true. That internal shift is beautiful, but, a wish doesn't materialize just because someone holds it warmly in their mind.
Right, you need action.
There has to be a bridge between this profound internal listening and physical reality. And we see that shift when he later goes to the manager and says, "Give me a week. Just ask her to wait."
A week of anticipation. It forces a pause. It really asks the child to participate in the value of the object by waiting for it.
Yeah, and here's where it gets really interesting. Because while she waits, the actual physical labor begins.
The scavenging.
Right. He goes to a local photo shop. But the author is very specific here. He visits not to shop, but to search. He goes straight to the bins, the discarded corners of the world. He digs out 3 narrow pieces of mirror. He finds some scattered mirror chips.
Just literal trash.
Literally. He salvages a round piece of clear glass. And for the main body of this device, he uses an empty agarbatti can, an incense cylinder.
The author describes that cylinder as humble, fragrant, waiting for purpose.
Waiting for purpose. Now, the text notes this is set in an era of scarcity.
Yeah.
So how should we interpret this scavenging process? Is this simply a practical matter? Times are tough, materials are scarce, so he has to make do with literal garbage from a bin. Or is the author hinting at a deeper philosophy regarding discarded things?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the author actually gives us a vital clue to his internal state right here. Yeah, when the protagonist picks up that empty agarbatti can, the text compares him to a poet reaching for his pen.
A poet.
That imagery elevates his actions far beyond mere practical necessity or DIY frugality.
Right, because a poet doesn't grab a pen simply because they're out of other options. They grab a pen to distill meaning. They grab it to create art.
That's the key. This isn't just a story about a man who is resourceful because times are tough. It's an exploration of his entire worldview.
Yeah.
The text explicitly states he has the quiet resolve of a man who saw potential where others saw waste.
Wow.
That is a profound psychological trait. Think about what it means to look at a shattered, discarded piece of mirror and not see broken trash, but rather the potential to reflect light.
To look at an empty incense tube and see a vessel for magic.
Exactly. It implies that he moves through the world constantly seeing the latent value in his environment.
And if you view the physical world that way, you likely view the people around you that way too. You see the latent value in the quiet coworker or the child whose request was brushed aside.
Right. It's a cohesive philosophy of attention. He refuses to accept that something or someone is useless just because the rest of the world has discarded it.
So he has this raw, scavenged material. But, raw materials that don't spontaneously become magic.
No, they don't.
This brings us to the actual architecture of the dream. He goes home, and the text describes this incredibly deliberate assembly process.
Yeah, the crafting.
He places those 3 salvaged mirror scraps into what the author calls a triangular embrace.
It's a wonderful piece of phrasing. It suggests care, almost like an act of nurturing the materials.
A triangular embrace so the light can fold into itself and bloom.
Mold and bloom. Beautiful.
Right. He adds the mirror chips at the end. He seals it with that salvaged clear glass. So mechanically speaking, at this exact moment, he has successfully built a functioning kaleidoscope.
The physics of reflection are working.
Exactly. If you look through that cardboard tube, the light will fold and bloom. But he doesn't stop there. He goes further.
He really does.
He wraps the outside in vibrant glass paper, his fingers perfectly steady. And then he adds what the text calls a whisper of magic. Georgina dust. Sparkle dust.
Ah, the Georgina dust.
Yeah, he kisses the outer shell with it so that the entire object shimmers like something born of dreams.
He essentially gives the object a soul,
It totally reminds me of the psychology of immersion. Like, if a child plays with a cardboard box, they have to use all their cognitive energy to pretend it's a spaceship.
Right, it's exhausting for them.
But if you paint that box silver and draw a control panel on it, you've met them halfway. You've validated their imaginative reality.
Absolutely.
But I keep coming back to this. He could have just handed her a plain brown agar body can that functioned perfectly well on the inside. Why go through the meticulous extra labor just to make the outside shimmer?
Well, because the outside is the invitation. What you're calling immersion is actually a demonstration of profound empathy for the child's perspective. Yeah. Think about the cognitive leap required here. If you hand a 10-year-old an old brown discarded incense tube and say, "Trust me, look inside," you are demanding that the child bridge the massive gap between mundane adult reality and the realm of magic.
Yeah, you're putting the burden of belief entirely on her.
You're asking her to ignore the trash to find the treasure.
Right.
But by wrapping it in vibrant glass paper, by kissing it with that jejina dust, he is matching the physical exterior to the magical interior. He's consciously engineering a complete unified portal.
He's silently communicating, I know you wanted something dazzling, so I made sure the vessel itself is dazzling.
He's not just cobbling together a toy. He is validating her wish in its entirety. The shimmering exterior tells her that the magic is real and safe to believe in before she even puts her eye to the glass.
He's telling her that she was heard. That level of meticulous care, that absolute devotion to the craft, it sets up the climax of the narrative beautifully. We transition to the next morning back in the office.
The collision of those two worlds.
Right. He walks back into that humming, earthbound environment, holding this shimmering magical object, and he hands it to the manager. And the manager is completely stunned.
Yeah.
The text says he asks, "Where did you find this?" And his voice is just laced with disbelief. And our protagonist simply replies, "I made it."
And then the silence.
The author compares the specific silence to the moment a curtain lifts and an audience sees the magician for the very first time.
It's a great image.
The manager stares at the toy, and then he stares at the maker, seeing him completely anew. It's a shattering of perception.
Yeah.
It makes me think about how often we do this in our own lives, how easily we categorize the people around us.
We reduce people to their functions all the time.
In that office, the protagonist was likely seen as just another earthbound worker.
Yeah.
Quiet, unremarkable, just part of the background static. The manager probably thought he had him entirely figured out.
It's like discovering the quiet accountant who sits 3 desks down from you is secretly, I don't know, a master jazz pianist on the weekend.
It completely breaks your mental model of who they are.
It shatters the perception because it introduces undeniable physical proof of a deep inner life.
Yeah.
By handing over that kaleidoscope, he reveals that while everyone else was focused on files and fans, he was actively harnessing light and geometry. He revealed himself to be an artist and an empathetic observer, existing right under their noses the entire time.
Right.
It forces the manager to realize how little he actually knows about the people he shares a room with every single day.
No. The text says, somewhere in the background, your father probably watched, not to be thanked, not to be praised, but simply to know a wish had been fulfilled. He completely removes himself from the spotlight.
So what does this all mean? This raises an important question about the nature of altruism and pure giving.
Yeah.
Because in our modern context, acts of generosity are almost inherently performative, right? We are conditioned to want the credit, to want the thank you, to want the validation that we have done a good deed.
We want the visible proof that we are a good person.
Yes, we want the manager to be impressed by our resourcefulness. We want the child to run up and hug us. But this man retreats completely into the background.
He fades back into the static.
By doing that, he proves that the act of creation, the scavenging of the waste, the meticulous application of the jejina dust, all of it, was entirely divorced from his own ego. He didn't build it to prove his worth to the manager, and he didn't even build it to win the affection of the little girl.
The physical fulfillment of her wish was its own standalone reward.
It is the ultimate expression of that sincerity the text mentioned in the very first line.
Yeah.
There was a scarcity of materials, yes, but an absolute abundance of sincerity. He didn't just listen with his spirit, he gave with his spirit. And because there was no ego attached to it, the gift remained pure.
And that kind of egoless giving is what makes the object itself so powerful. The galaxy in a tube wasn't weighed down by adult motivations or unseen strings. It was Pure magic, delivered purely because the maker didn't demand anything in return.
It really is a profound roadmap for how we might reconsider interacting with the people and the environments around us.
It truly is. Which brings us to the close of our deep dive today. We've traced this incredibly moving journey of a man who sat quietly in the hum of an ordinary office, actively tuned in to the unsaid longing of a child.
Mm-hmm.
We watched him gather the discarded corners of a Photoshop bin and a humble incense can and engineer a portal to dancing geometry, simply because he possessed the quiet resolve to see latent potential where others saw only waste.
It serves as a masterclass in deep listening and a reminder of the quiet power of egoless creation.
And as we wrap up, I want to connect this back to you, the listener.
Yeah,
We all navigate our own versions of that rustling office every single day.
we do.
We all have our daily grind, the humming fans, the endless technical static of our modern lives. It is incredibly easy to stay earthbound.
Oh, it's the default.
It is the path of least resistance to just smile vaguely at the needs of others and keep walking, keeping our heads down. But this story challenges us to stop. It challenges us to actively tune our internal dials past the noise.
To pause long enough to recognize the hidden value in the discarded moments of our day and to truly listen with the spirit rather than just processing data with our ears.
Yes, but before you go, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. We started today by talking about how this story takes place in an era before instant gratification, before an algorithm could instantly fulfill a child's request with next-day delivery. So consider this. In our modern rush to instantly solve every longing with a click, what are we losing? If a wish never has the time to be gently dreamt upon, and if we never have to wait a week for the magic to be meticulously built by hand, are we actually robbing ourselves and our children of the very scarcity that makes sincerity possible?
That is a deeply unsettling yet vital question to consider about our modern conveniences.
Sometimes the waiting and the quiet attention it requires is where the real magic is built. Keep your eyes open for the latent potential hidden in the static today. Thank you for taking this deep dive with us.